Welcome to Unconventional. I'm your host, Bill Tessar. Unique stories from entrepreneurs that have failed, picked themselves up, been knocked down, picked themselves up again, traveled roads that few travel. It's about digging into the successes that people have found in real estate, financing, lending, and the like. Welcome to today's episode of Unconventional. Not everyone gets a second act. Even fewer choose to write one when they don't have to. Anthony Geraci has spent over 2 decades building not just businesses, but leaders. As a founder, attorney, CEO, pilot, father, and mentor, he's worn many hats. And now he's chartering a bold new course with a fresh vision and a familiar name. With a deep passion for private lending, a national footprint in legal innovation, and an unwavering commitment to doing things the right way, Anthony is proving that success isn't about resting on your legacy, it's about expanding it. Please welcome Anthony Geraci, founder and CEO of Geraci LLP. Anthony, it is so great to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
You know, it's interesting. When you and I talked a few moments ago, maybe a week and a half, I shared with you that when I came out of the conventional side and into the private lending space, which was back in like 17, Geraci has been part of my life since day one. But it was years before I actually knew that Anthony Geraci was the man behind Geraci. I didn't know. I just knew the people that we interacted with every day. And I bring that up as just as a point to note that, look, I know there's a little bit of drama going on between you and your old partners. And I think I've shared with you off record, and I'll share with you now on the record, that I am hopeful that all parties find a way to find peace and happiness and can get to a place of rooting for one another, because I do think all of you play a special role in what's going on in the private lending space. And I've also told you, and that I'm committed to it, that I want to figure out a way that I might be able to help bring that together. That being said, it is confusing. And having gone through it myself, with the dislocation of PacWest and what happened with Oldco and the standing up the new, I'm probably more sensitive to the optics around it. And so, without putting you or anybody in a position to dive into the legalities, like how does the lending world know what is what conference, what is another conference, what is AAPL? Like it is a bit confusing. So would you mind, like, maybe at a very high level, kind of simplifying it for our listeners?
Yeah, no, Bill, I appreciate all that, and I truly hope so as well as far as working out. And I, for one, look forward to a day when that is all behind us. But to give you kind of a sense of where all the conferences are right now is, I started the Geraci conference line, which is now known as Fortra, in 2015 with Ruby Keys, and so that conference line has Captivate and Innovate as it's named right now. I'm launching 2 brand new ones that are coming in February called Activate and Elevate. And I think those are going to be, if you will, very new to the space, although there'll be some of the same players. Just because I'm the type of person, if I can't figure out something new, I'm not going to copy and paste something that's already existing. It just doesn't make sense for me. I love to create. That's part of my personality and my makeup and DNA. And so Elevate is going to cater to brand new brokers and people who haven't seen the private lending space. So real estate agents, commercial real estate agents, people who have deal flow already and just haven't tapped into the private lending market. They've heard about it. They may have seen a deal and said, oh, that's not for us, forget about it. Now they could place that deal maybe with some lenders. And so our goal is to give basic education at Elevate to these type of agents so these understand the private lending market. And as you can imagine with any other conference, right, when you train somebody, 80% are going to do nothing with it, right? They'll go and say, oh, that's interesting, and they go back about their daily lives. But my hope and goal is that 20% who really see that they can take that deal flow, send it to private lenders, and either double end money, or maybe they're prohibited from it, at least take care of their clients. That's going to be magical for them as well as for the lenders. And then I'll Activate.
Yeah, not to mention, let me just interrupt real quick. Not to mention that if the typical investor is doing 4 to 6 transactions a year, there's a lot more opportunity than finding Susie homeowner that's going to be in their property for 8 to 10 years and not have another bite at that apple until that either wants to move up or down or, out of the area. Correct?
Absolutely. And if you go on LinkedIn, you and I are well connected with a lot of different brokers out there. I literally saw 2 deals last week saying, hey, do you guys know any private lenders? I've got this deal. And it's just the quintessential deal that would fit probably 50% of my clients, but maybe you'd like it as well. And they just don't know how to take it and make a home for it. And so that was just simply something interesting. And then Activate, which is that second part of the conference, because they'll be together in either Vegas or wherever we have it, because I see those as 2 conferences, one that feeds into the other, is going to be your traditional lender conference, but with a little bit of a twist, because I want to have 3 tracks right there. One for the securitizer, who, of course, such as yourselves, who are taking market to Wall Street, or people buying notes or forward flows. But then brokers that will have some educational tracks. But really, I think who's been kind of ignored the last few years is your balance sheet lenders. What I consider those guys who had traditional mortgage funds in, say, 2013, 2014, and they're not looking to get a forward flow or securitization. Maybe they have some leverage. And their goal is just to make good deals that maybe not optimized by RTLs or some other spaces. They're still going out there and making good loans and have an educational track. Them just talked about new and exciting areas to lend in.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? So there's ABS, right? And ABS is really the true Wall Street capital markets, 5,000 black suits, gray suits, all in the same area. But you don't have a lot of originators. You have like some of the top 10 that float around and take those meetings, but you definitely don't have any booths or anything that are going on like that. So mixing those 2 would be very interesting, right? It's I haven't seen it done, so I actually think you're onto something there. So backing up a sec. So you have Geraci LLP, and then you have your old partners, which is Fortra, correct? And then they have 2 conferences and you have 2 conferences. Is that correct? And their 2 conferences were what names again?
Captivate and Innovate.
Captivate and Innovate. And yours are?
Activate and Elevate.
Okay. So 2 separate companies run by 2 separate groups of people that are targeting some of the people in the same space, but with a different message. So like everybody could live, and there's plenty of opportunity for everyone to live harmoniously. I think we both agree with that. So that represents one part. Then you have the legal part. Like Geraci Legal in the business purpose lending space has been kind of a cornerstone for forever, right? And so will you still provide those services?
We absolutely will, right? We're going to still do 50-state lending, 50-state compliance, same thing that I've always done for the last 20 years. The funny thing about all of this has been I don't really dictate my services, if that makes any sense. Like my whole idea is, if you ever seen the movie Robots, there's a scene where it's see a need, fill a need. And so as the market shifts, my services shift as well. So next 5 years, of course, we're going to DSCR, but maybe we start optimizing other spots in private lending. And then my goal is, what services can I provide and add value to my clients? And that's what I'll do 5 years from now.
And then the third leg of the stool is Stratus Financial, correct?
You got it.
So walk me through what is Stratus? What's your focus there? How are you taking that to market?
I founded Stratus in 2020 with my co-founder and business partner, Brandon Martini there. And we're a lender, but we're a very specialized lender. We give student loans to aspiring pilots. And so these are the people who want to go to the airlines. And funny enough, before I even entered this, I thought either military went in or somehow airlines had their own programs where they train people from the ground up. And of course, as I learned how to fly just as I learned how to fly recreationally for passion, I got to hang around the flight schools and found out there was not a market for financing there. And I scratched my head thinking, well, FAFSA should take care of this. But FAFSA and federal financing is nowhere to be seen in the trading market. And so that's, coming from my private lending background, I was like, well, I can solve that niche, if you will. And that's how I got kind of what you were talking about before, how I got exposed to ABS from a lending standpoint. ABS, we're a fixture at ABS East often for Stratus. And talking with, if you are anywhere from forward flow partners to brokers to, if you will, large ABS securitizers. And I found, I don't know if you found this as well, is it's like you're shooting on a rocket and trying to fit yourself in any one of 100 boxes as you're moving constantly forward, and hopefully you fit in the box at the time you find them.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think one of the things that's been interesting from my seat watching what's kind of played out, and I think for the most part, it seems like all the parties are playing somewhat nice. I think you recall when I was going through what I was going through with the bank, I was nowhere to be seen or heard from, and that was calculated and very deliberate. And there were a lot of other people like appeared to be speaking on my behalf or supporting or whatever it was. And I do remember like going through that. It was the first thing I thought about when I woke up, that battle. And it was the last thing I thought about before I went to bed. And it was all consuming. And I would say that I generally run about 95% positive, 5 to 10%, the edge and the thing that goes into your side that kind of has your head on a swivel. And that was kind of inverted for a moment in time. So I do believe in my heart that if I could help in any way to bring peace and harmony to both of those groups, I think the entire industry benefits from having all of you a part of it. And I do like very much, Anthony, how like you have leaned in. I've seen a lot more of you, and I've seen a lot more enthusiasm, and I've seen a lot more gumption over the last few months than I can ever recall seeing since I've been in this space in 17. I'm guessing by design, right? By energy and effort?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think we talked a little bit before the show. It's really funny how I've always been around, but behind the scenes in the sense of tinkering on new projects, new visions, new ideas, and, bringing them to light through the company itself, but maybe not being seen from the outside. And what you always pull apart. I do anyway. Try to do an autopsy, even no matter where it lies. Is like, what can I learn from this, and what can I take away from it? And there are many takeaways, as that goes through. But the one in particular, with this one is, I allowed myself to be in the shadows, maybe not intentionally necessarily, but definitely, I allowed others to speak. And somewhere within that last, 6-8 years, my voice got lost and my impact, I think, within it. And, it's funny, you've seen some of the work, but I almost like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. It wasn't intentional that way, but it's kind of the way it became. And so as I launched this 2.0, if you will, really, I need to be the face of it. I need to get my name out there again, not just for what I've done, but what I continue to do and can do.
Yeah, probably more the face, because your name is a table stake in our space. Like you don't, and and you have a very good name. So there's no damage control there. I think it's just probably audience education in the most respectful, proper way that all parties can do it. And again, fingers crossed, right? Like my heart tells me that there will be a path to acceptance and happiness for all people, and that you will all be in a better spot because of it. But that said, I will tell you that from this seat, your name is golden. Like you have a wonderful name. I think probably very few things are more important in business than having that. You have it. So now you get to be seen. You get to be seen a little bit more.
And shape it, right? I think I shaped it before, but also, you continue to shape, and I'd like to think, I architect things, I build things, and if I'm going to be known for something, I love to build different things. And what else can we do in the private lending space? We were talking, last time we spoke, and I truly believe we're in the beginning. As funny as that sounds, like I've been in this industry 2 decades, but it changed starting in 2013 from, if you will, state players and fractionalized different things from 2013. And then you just start seeing people who come from the conventional space saying, hey, this looks interesting, especially in the zero rate environment we had back then. And there's something we could do here. And kind of like I saw with Stratus, they saw the private lending is, and I know the amount of headaches and heartaches you guys suffered as I suffered in Stratus, just trying to bring something that may not have a positive connotation like hard money lending, as we change to private lending, to Wall Street and saying, hey, there's a product here that you guys need to take a look at. And I know it's, people spent years trying to get there, and it's amazing to see where it goes now. And I still think we've got quite a lot of room left. Maybe we've optimized RTL loans and stuff like that, but what's next? Hotel, DSCR, business purpose themselves without regard to product type. It's going to be interesting 10 years.
It is. I agree with you. I think we're on the precipice of something great. Like, this asset class is now sought after by not just your standard Wall Street loan buyers. You got more insurance companies leaning in, especially with the changes in risk-based capital. You got more hedge funds, more REITs, more private equity. You got regional banks. You got credit unions. This asset class spits out a yield that they now can measure with the risk associated with default,
right, and
do the math, and the math works, right?
It's bonds, something that they think they can invest in day out. Bonds are AAA, AA, and you get 300 to 400 basis points above bonds for the same risk. It's amazing.
So, we also talked about, so you have Stratus, you have your conferences, you have your legal business. So were you one of the founders of AAPL?
I was, yeah. There were 4 of us originally, and I'm the last founder standing, if you will, out of the 4 of us. The other 3 went out of the industry, and I've been a part of the industry, ever since, of course. And one of the drivers behind it, and the reason we founded AAPL was, rewind the clock to 2008, which is when we started. And this is when the SAFE Act came out, for those who love the licensing regime of the National Mortgage Licensing System. The seeds of that was planted in that SAFE Act of 2008. And I saw a need, if you will, for a national organization. No longer are you going to be this state player where you're going to just stay in California or Arizona or Nevada or wherever you're at, and you're only going to be beholden to those regulators. And I think the seeds are showing now is, like, you're seeing more and more federal regulators coming into the private lending space. And especially as we expand the next 10 years, they're not going to be this hidden asset class. Kind of what we know about it before is, like, everybody's going to be aware of it, including those in Congress. And so laws, I think, that were previously not aimed at us but affected us may start being aimed at us. And so the whole idea of having American Association of Private Lenders was, let's be an advocate for the space even before they need it. And as you see in 2008, what else can they expand? Okay, they're working on consumer right now, but just as easily can they regulate commercial properties? And they certainly can. They haven't yet. We'll see where that goes, but definitely need for a voice. And even if it hasn't hit necessarily federal level a lot, AAPL has done some great work on state levels, like in Florida, of course, California, and some other players, as far as just getting people to be educated about private lenders, what we do in the space, and how what they do affects us.
So you still are an owner of AAPL. You're one of the owners.
I am.
Okay.
I still am.
So you have an awful lot of things you're working on right now. Like, it is interesting, right, Anthony? Like, I have CV3.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. I couldn't imagine having the responsibility of, like, 3 other entities, all with needs and wants and desires and business plans that are pulling in a number of different directions. It does take a special human being to be able to compartmentalize that and bring, your best version every day to those different business opportunities.
Absolutely. And kind of what also, it takes good people, right? There's no way, if I didn't have a strong company culture, if you will, within Stratus. My co-founder is my co-CEO, for instance, and he runs the day-to-day and the operations. He gives me the freedom, if you will, to dream and build and maybe 10x the company with a couple of ideas. And so that's real freedom he's granted me as he takes on 100 employees there. With an AAPL, I'm kind of a cheerleader as well. I'm vice chairman, so you see my name out there. You see me doing stuff there. But again, Linda's president right now, and she does an excellent job of talking with people, getting AAPL's vision out there, our ethics, and everything we do there. There's no way I could do 3 companies at once if it wasn't the people beneath us and the company, their ability to, if you will, I give them a vision and they execute from there.
So you went to college and you got your law degree. Was that the very first? So you get your law degree. Did you know you were going to use that in lending, or were you trying to figure out how that was going to apply to making a living?
Yeah, I felt, it's funny. Everything I'm a part of, I fall into, if that makes any sense. Did not expect it. So I worked for a small law firm right out of law school, and in private lending in 2005. And I'll remember the first question forever. I show up to work the first day, and it's a licensing question in California. And my boss says, "Hey, go research a mortgage." And of course, I'm a 23-year-old kid. I'm like, "What's a mortgage?" I have no idea, right? I've heard about these things, but I imagine it had more of a impetus than, yeah, what's a mortgage, like you would consider like signing. And I didn't know the basics. And so, it's funny. Remember, those first days are crazy, but no idea. I applied for that job just off of Daily Journal at the time, which is kind of like Indeed nowadays, and got the job.
Yeah.
And how long were you an employee of that law firm that specialized in lending?
Yeah, I was there 2.5 years, and there was a culture there that he didn't accept partners, and of course everybody gets to dictate what they want to do. I just saw I saw my future in the next 20 years, and I saw, oh gosh, okay, I'm gonna get $4,000 a year raises for the next 20 years, and that felt like death to me. I couldn't do anything. It was like, gosh, no matter what you do, no matter how good you, just steady raises with no upside, and so. After 2.5 years, I decided that I learned enough, because I'm never going to know 100%, but I learned enough to know if I don't know it, I know where to look. And that's when I started Geraci Law Firm in 2007.
Oh, so you were an attorney for 2.5 years. You're dealing with lending needs and requirements. So you're learning where the gaps are in the space, right? You mentioned licensing. I'm guessing there was a host of other things. And you're like, hey, like I'm doing the work. I'm the one that they're coming to. I can do this myself and kind of pave my own path.
Absolutely. And if you've got the dates, that's July 2007. And right after I walk out the door, things start imploding. And it's funny. I still remember talking to my ex-wife at the time. I was like, this is either the best decision I made or the worst. So it was definitely some tough times with landmines, the first couple of years. Clients came and gone those first couple of years. There was a mortgage implode meter, if you remember that.
I do.
Just tallied up, and you saw names like Lehman Brothers hit it early on, and you're like, wow, if an institution like Lehman Brothers falls, who doesn't? So it's crazy during those times.
Yeah, for those that don't know what Anthony's talking about, you can Google mortgage implode meter, and you will see. He mentioned Lehman. I mean, there was Great Western Bank, Washington Mutual, Home Savings, GMAC, Saxon. The biggest of the biggest lenders were on that, and we would come to the office every day, and we would pull it up to see who ended up on that list that day. That's how crazy it was, and it was. I mean, it was a harrowing time. I remember, Anthony, like we would close deals and normally back then there wasn't wires, there were broker checks. And so we'd have a stack of broker checks based on the closings for that week. And we would normally just almost to make ourselves feel good, let those checks stack up, and then on Friday go make the deposit of the 40 or 50 or however many loans you were closing. Then when the financial crisis hit, we had runners that would go pick up the check at escrow and deposit them in the bank because we were afraid that the lender who wrote the check would be out of business by the time the check cleared. It was just a crazy time, but it was very real.
Absolutely. And put it to most people who would understand it today, it would be like having an implodometer and finding out Amazon is on that list when you had no other expectations of Amazon hitting it. And you're like, Amazon's out of business. And then you start seeing Microsoft and some other names like that. And you're like, wow, things are going crazy fast. And at least for me, maybe there was other people who were more connected. These names just came out of nowhere. It is crazy. And, it reminds me, funny enough, I was going through a refinance with Silicon Valley Bank right during, what was it, 2021, 2022? I'm losing dates anymore. But I remember those 2007 days, and you see their name on the questionable list in the FDIC. And I even remember asking 2 weeks before they should get shut down, I asked my broker, hey, are you going to close this loan? They're like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. There's no issues whatsoever. And I had a feeling that's why they wanted me to get an appraisal. I started dragging my feet because I didn't see any way they were going to get out of it. And 2 weeks later, they get shut down by the FDIC.
Well, to have a little bit of history revision, to jump over there, that the bank that owned our old co was going through it too, and they had regulators in, and we were watching every day as we were trying to figure out a way to spin that mortgage company out, which ultimately led to the shutdown of the operations. And so, yeah, I mean, I do think those scars, the education people like you and I learn from living through those situations that put like these large indelible scars in us are valuable. At the time when you're going through them, you're kind of going through it. It doesn't seem like it's valuable, but when you come out the back end, you go like, it might be the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I'm willing to bet you're going to say that, and we'll have lunch sometime and you'll tell me that that's the case.
Well, I can tell you the story right now. And if there's one thing I pat myself on the back for, it's a strata story. So we were doing fixed notes through 2021 up through early 2022. And as you see the market just getting volatile early on, right? There were signs that something was going to happen. I don't think any of us saw 500 bips in 3 months, which was what ended up happening. It was volatile enough to where I pulled the plug on the fixed product. And you can imagine, I fought my business partner probably a good 15 days on it. And I said, there's absolutely no way we're not going to avert to a adjustable rate product right now. And he said, well, all our competitors are doing fixed rate. I said, then they're idiots because this is volatile enough that why should we take the risk? And tell you what, best case scenario, the rate stays the same. Worst case scenario, it adjusts. And so in February of 2022, we came up with adjustable rate only product. And he demanded a fixed rate. It's like, cool. Okay, you want a fixed rate? We'll do 22%, which was, I don't know, 15 basis points or 15% above what we were lending at the time. So, because I didn't want a fixed product. I had no idea where the market was going. And then June comes around and we get the 500 basis points in 6 months. And then I looked at it and was like, yeah, I remember these days, 2007.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, it is interesting. You could be, no matter how long you're in the space, and I date myself, but I was, I started in the 80s and I've seen crazy stuff. I've never thought in a million years that the jump we would experience would happen that radical that fast. And the first one was like a half to 5/8, and everyone knew it was going to retrace back a quarter to 3/8, and then it went up another quarter, and you're going like, oh, it will definitely retrace back 3/8 to half. Then it went up another half, and you're going like, it's up over 1.5 points, and now locks are getting blown out, and people are like, I am not refinancing at 4 3/4. I was going to be at 2.5, and all those folks kind of wish. It's interesting too, Anthony, because I say my biggest mistake during that period of 2% interest rates was not buying more. And I bought, like I own real estate, and I got my fair share in the 2s and 3s, but we should have bought as much as we could have possibly afforded, because we may never in my lifetime ever see rates like that again. Ever.
I agree. I don't think you will. And that's definitely a mistake of mine as well, not buying enough real estate. I of course, own some as well, own some apartments. I wish we could have gotten like a 30-year fixed at 2% for some of the apartment buildings, but at least we got 10-year fixed. And so we'll earn some benefit of it. But I think 2% is gone forever.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy when you get the 10-year fixed. You go, 10 years, a lifetime. Then all of a sudden you go, shit, I got 3 more years. I need because this reset's going to be real. So let me back up. Let me back up. You're 07. You start Geraci. We're entering into the financial crisis. Does your focus switch to are you now looking at note mods and renegotiations and short sales, or where was your focus during the financial crisis?
So I had some old school clients, if you will. You'll remember these days back in the day. So I had Option One as a client, New Century as a client. So yeah, loan mods were the soup du jour back then. Right in 07, 08. And even when it's funny. So when Option One shut down and they declared bankruptcy, everybody it's out of sight, out of mind. But I still represent Option One, I want to say to about 2013, because they had a sizable book they were still cleaning up over the next 5 years. They were still a servicing arm. And so we did, oh my gosh, hundreds of mods. And back then, the whole idea is, okay, well, we'll take whatever you have in interest, we'll add it to the back of the note at 0% interest. That was how they were dealing with it back then. And the New Century, I can tell you, I still have some fond stories that I think I'd be fine to say now because it's been 16 years later. But, I was repping Robert Cole and Ed Gotchel back then in New Century. And 2009, they walk into my office saying, Anthony, we're going to do New Century again. So 2 years later. And then, Ed just died, unfortunately. And so I called Bob. He's like, well, I'm not doing it without Ed. And so we didn't have New Century Part 2, which I think those guys would have just crushed it because everything they touched was going great. But, those were definitely some interesting times.
So you go through the financial crisis, and are you still solving licensing issues and general litigation in real estate, or how does that pie get chopped up? X amount for mods, X amount for litigation, X amount for licensing. Like, what does your business model look like then?
Yeah, it's funny. So we're kind of recession proof in a lot of ways. So back then, 2007, 2009, we're working out old stuff. So I have a lot of mortgage funds. And, I've got stories for days on that. I won't bore you on that, but definitely working through some mortgage funds where literally these guys, the big investors, are looking at the mortgage impotometer and they're thinking these mortgage funds just stole from them, right? Their principals are Ponzi schemes. And I'm like, have you looked at the market, the real estate market? I mean, we're 50 cents down. What do you expect to have? So working through those in litigation and arbitration, working through mods, and then with what I call recession products, which is now I've got a lot of clients coming to me as like, let's form a scratch and dent fund. And for those who don't know, scratch and dent is non-performing or semi-performing notes. Well, there's now an opportunity to buy them for pennies on the dollar. Market will recover. Don't worry about it. We've got money. We'll hold on for a few years. And so those early days, if you will, 2007, 2012, I still had some new funds, like people wanted to originate. Now the market was, they always thought, oh, it's the bottom. And then you wait 4 months later, oh, new bottom. And then 4 months later, oh, now we're at the bottom. It's just always trying to get to the bottom. But also a lot of people creating those scratch and dent portfolios and really trying to buy for pennies on the dollar, work them out and make money that way. You may remember a name Condor back in the day. So yeah, so that was one of our clients as well. Just watching the rise, and that company was amazing. Like they were the scratch and dent kings in early, late 09s, early 10s.
Many of the leaders in our asset management division at CV3 cut their teeth at Condor. Many of them.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Actually, gentleman who runs asset management and servicing, Eric Williams, was from there. So yeah, they spit out a lot of very, very talented people over the years, and I agree with you. When did you at Geraci go, hey, let's bring some form of marketing in here. Let's bring some form of education. We don't have to just be a legal beagle and handling some of these things you and I just discussed, but really created a different net of attention, which I actually think was brilliant. Right? It's the old kind of Nike thing. Nike rarely talks about the shoes. They just talk about winning everything. And so when you think about all the value you bring from a conference perspective, it is a different mousetrap. So when did that happen in your career?
Yeah, I would say early on, I've always been an educator, if you will. I don't think people buy any type of services, just because you say, hey, buy from me, right? I think it's you put education out there and, you really teach people, then I hope they find that valuable. This became formalized, I think, in 2012, where I would have a marketing coordinator would put out newsletters. But probably around 2014, as AAPL is transitioning, and there was an executive director that really was, I would say, I don't want to say running into the ground, but not running in the way that I thought the association should go. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of control or say in the association at the time. And so despite me saying, hey, guys, I don't think this is the direction you should now go, they still continue down that. I saw the need. So there's like AAPL is not meeting my vision, and people still need to be served. So in 2015, that's when I got the idea to launch the conference line. And the idea wasn't to be an association, but really let's create a conference line where we invite our clients, or even people who are not clients, and get them talking about what they care about today, positives, if you will. Sure, education is necessary, but let's get networking. Let's get, what are the topics of the day? What do you guys want to talk about? What do you want to learn? And that was within the Captivate and Innovate ecosystem, if you will. Let's bring those topics to bear, bring the people who have most knowledge of it, and just share it freely. My whole philosophy is if you teach people, they think of you kindly and they come to you. And worst case scenario, they don't, right? They use a competitor. but at some point they're going to use one of your clients and you grow as a result. And so, it's one of those, what is it? All water rises, tides rise all boats. And that's kind of the theory behind it, is how do we get more networking, get people to know each other, do deals together, and grow bigger together?
Is the economic angle to figure out a way to break even on the conferences so that your brand is just growing without you having to spend millions of dollars to grow it? Or is there an economic play on the conference thought process?
There's really no economics to it. I mean, you'll make a little bit of money, especially once you get going long enough, but it's not enough money that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go in the conference business forever. At least that's not the way I saw it. The whole idea behind the conferences was really that break-even standpoint. In fact, I can tell you, my goal has always been, how do we break even for the conference? Not the idea isn't to make a killing, but you get enough to where you're breaking even. But I can tell you it shifts. And I saw this because with Stratus, I created Aero Summit, which is just a conference, kind of like somewhere to innovate, and elevate and activate, but trying to bring the whole ecosystem there, flight school trainers and everything together. The conversation shifts. It shifts away from you being part of the conversation to you being at the hub of the conversation. And people kind of look at you at your conference of, I need your help, right? And it's not even necessarily legal help or lending help. It's, I need to know somebody in this space. And I've always been a connector. I love connecting people. And I tell everybody, if I can open my Rolodex to somebody, I'm more than happy to do so. And if those people connect, generally speaking, the business comes back to me in some form. But the conversation changes really from being you're being a part of the conversation to you're at the core of the conversation. And that's why I truly, truly believe every business should have a conference line attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have done a tremendous job through the years, and again, elevated your corporate name, which happens to be your personal name, in a way that connects a strong legal support and partnership with the BPL space. So, congratulations on that. Like, it's actually, there could be a masterclass in doing that. Like, if you sat back and watched, and you go, very, very well done. So as you transition into this next phase of your life, what's got you excited?
Just creating again. It's fun. There's nothing. I think probably the most gratification of any entrepreneur is you take something that doesn't exist, and because you will it into existence, it is. And at least I found that there's nothing more fun than doing something like that. And so, as I launched 2.0, it really becomes a blank canvas. What do you want to do next? And as you know, my goal isn't to copy anything, but what can I add value to again? And if I can't add something valuable, I'm not going to create it. But as I look in the space, kind of like we talked about earlier in this conversation, I see the need for two things. I see the need for people who don't know the lending space right now from a broker standpoint. Let's educate them. Let's get them in the space and at least become part of the ecosystem. And then with Activate, how do we, how do we balance the needs of not only the securitizers, but also the balance sheet lenders as well, and the brokers? And if we keep an educational course for all three and then bring them all to network with each other, I just can't help but think that everybody's going to grow together and that ecosystem continues to beat, and everything moves forward together. To me, that's exciting.
Long hours, you going through, are you bell to bell right now, or are you managing that?
Oh, I'm 16-hour days right now. You can imagine, I say I've got good people, but each company has a need and want from me, and I don't like to let people down. And so that's my number one driver of I want to be there no matter where I'm at. And if that takes 16, 18-hour days, 7 days a week, I know it's temporary too. As I build another team with Geraci, that those hours will go down. But, if it takes 16, 18-hour days for me, that just means I have to be more intentional with my time.
Yeah. I'm going off the path a little bit. When did you become a pilot? Like I didn't realize you were.
Yeah, so I'm a commercially rated pilot with an instrument rating as well. And I fly both single and multi-engine planes. I learned how to do it, funny enough, in 2019. And it's another one of those fun, crazy stories. My business partner, I've known him for 10 years. And he's a pilot. He owned a flight school. He sold it, of course, with Stratus in Riverside, California. And so he took me on a flight. I wanted to go to Catalina because I'd never been before. And he said, well, I'll come pick you up. I'll fly. You take care of the hotel. And I'm like, okay. Because I didn't have that passion of flying from a young age. I just never considered it. So I'm sitting in ACI Jet at Orange County, and it's nice, area, easy, drinks for free. I'm like, oh, this is nice. And he walks in from the tarmac, and he gives a credit card to the desk, and he looks at me and said, "You ready to go?" I'm like, I'm looking around. I was like, "You don't need to do anything. We're just ready to go." And he's like, "Yeah, let's just go." And so we get in the tarmac, put my bag in the plane, and I jump in the co-pilot seat. And I'm like, "What do we do now?" He's like, "Well, we're going." I was like, I don't, you can just go? Like, I had no concept of this whatsoever. It just didn't make any sense. Like, you don't need to file flight plans. There's no time, because I'm used to commercials. Like, you will go at 2:10, because that's what they say. I was like, that was my only impression. It's like, and he looks like I'm an idiot. I was like, well, no, we're going right now. And so he calls a tower. What I now understand is you file a flight plan as you go. And within, I want to say 5 minutes, we took off. And I was just dumbfounded. And what it opened up my eyes to is this the freedom that gives you. Can you imagine being able to go anywhere or anytime you want just because you want to? And I was astounded by that. And so in 2019, I started taking flight lessons. And then, of course, through COVID, gave me actually a lot more time, because as COVID, for us, we were almost shut down for a good 4 months. There's stuff we could do and stuff we did marketing wise, to fill that void. But still, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I'm really good at drinking already from being a lawyer. So I was like, okay, so I learned a new skill, which is flying. And I got bit by the bug, and it's amazing.
And so how often do you fly now?
I don't get to fly as much as I'd like, but I try to fly at least once a month. So I actually just flew to Aspen. Me and some friends were going to a festival there, and flew from California and from Orange County to Aspen. And difficult airport to land in, just because it's surrounded by mountains and a lot of wind shear. But that was an adventure and a lot of fun going there.
The original owners of our old company also own the Hawthorne Airport. And so there's three main owners, and then there were two others that came on, and two of those five are pilots. And there is a good math equation with the accelerated depreciation on the planes that, like if you go through it, they buy a King Air for $3 million, and they put 10% down, and then they depreciate the whole $3 million, so it's $1.5 million cash benefit, and then they lease it back to the airport and try to get it to some form of break even, so that they could basically fly for free, get the tax benefit, have an asset. And it's just it was kind of an amazing thing. It caught my attention. I never went as far as actually pulling the trigger and getting one, but it's always been in the back of my head.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? And of course, I think now we have 100% bonus depreciation for life, or at least for a while now. And so, yeah, it still applies. Yeah, you buy it, get the tax benefits, and then lease it out and down. It's definitely viable. I didn't do it for that. I do fly a Piper Aerostar, which is a twin piston, one of the fastest twin pistons they make. But no, I see the value of that for sure. And
those are super safe too, right? The ones you just mentioned.
Absolutely, yeah. And so they're a pilot's plane for sure, because they move fast, and they were designed to be almost like a jet. So at 172 knots, I can put flaps down, which is what jets can do, but most other planes cannot. So learning that has been a lot of fun. And of course, any plane can kill you. So I think that particular plane gets a bad rap. As long as you pay attention to what's going on in the plane, all planes are safe, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. Hey, Anthony, when you think back over the last 20 years, what would you say the best piece of advice anyone's ever given you is? If you just you're sitting there 2 decades over your shoulders, what would that be?
Yeah. I think most people quit before they're ready to break through. I really do. And for whatever reason, doubt enters their mind or anything. I've always been good about perseverance and grit, if you will. I expect any business I open to fail, and fail immediately. And to me, it's not even a failure. I just expect to learn. Yeah, because this idea of pivot that you always hear about in business. Oh yeah, I had to pivot. And it's like, well, the pivot happened because you actually learned something from the market. The market wasn't ready for the product at what you offered it. And so, what they call the product market fit. What is the product you're offering, and what can you take to market? For instance, Stratus, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Our first product was brilliant in my mind. We're going to have a 5-year promissory note to students, and the investment market was going to love it. 5-year fully AM, who wouldn't? There's no risk whatsoever. Of course, at $100,000 for a loan, that's $4,000 a month in payments, and no student's taking a $4,000 a month payment. And so, it's one of those failures, if you will, that you learn. Is like, oh, okay, we really need a much longer maturity. Okay, well, the investors aren't going to take it, and so trying to find that balance between what the market's going to buy, if you will, and what the market's going to sell for is really kind of the learning, and so. Perseverance has always served me. You only fail when you quit.
Did that paper perform okay? The airline paper?
Yeah. So we've got about 75 million under management right now. We have a 10% default rate, which is well within tolerance. We're expecting between 7 and 15% from a charge-off standpoint. And so with that one, all you have to do is charge enough to have a reserve to pay for those downsides, of which our paper is at 17%. You can imagine. So it probably sounds good, at least with we're talking, right? Because you can charge say 9, 12 for something secured by real estate, and we're just unsecured credit. But we have a market ourselves, like we can get investors at 15, if you will, and it makes sense all day.
And then the non-performing stuff, do you guys bundle that up and sell that at a discount to collectors, to attorneys that go and collect 20 to 30% of whatever they're buying? Is that how that works, or does it hit their credit? Like, how does that whole thing settle out?
Yeah, right now it's all in-house just because it's small enough. But I can tell you sooner or later we do expect to sell it off as charged-off paper to people for pennies on the dollar, what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Part of our underwriting process has always been, and we give credit to, assets. We don't lean assets. We just identify like real equity in real estate, what have you, and ensuring that the owner of real estate has something there at the end of the day. And we give credit to that in our underwriting.
Got it. As you look at the Anthony Geraci pie of businesses right now, how is your time spent between the conference cycle, the legal cycle, Stratus / other? And I want to get to one other thing about your podcast in a second.
Yeah, probably 33% for the law firm, about 33% for the conferences, and probably about 30% for Stratus, if you will, and 3% for other. So that's kind of where my time is spent. But it's funny is that they say that business is a jealous mistress, so they're all kind of jealous. But a lot of people just, if you will, silo those, like that. You play in the Stratus box or play in the law firm box. But what I found is my worlds merge, and I can't play in one box or the other because I get benefits from both, right? So kind of what we're talking about with the vision of Activate, of bringing people from the ABS world that's never touched our space and bringing them in and introducing them to private lending. I got those contacts from Stratus. Like, I wouldn't have those contacts if it wasn't for Stratus, and going to ABSs and trying to build a capital markets team for the last 4 years to get Stratus to going where it is today. I don't think that vision exists without it. Same reason as I've got some Geraci contacts, if you will, that benefit Stratus on some things we're doing there. So while I compartmentalize the time right there, I'm also cognizant of, be aware of who can help each business, because there is some crossover.
Yeah. So let's transition over to your podcast. The name of your podcast?
It's 4,200%. So build, scale, sell.
Where did 4,200% come from?
Yeah, that comes from Stratus and our growth for the first 2 years, and it was 4,209%, and we are the fastest growing company in Orange County for the last 2 years, and we just got our Inc. standings, and we came out as 113 of Inc. 500. So
wow.
Fastest growing companies, yeah, and because there's something, it's funny, it's hard enough to build a company, as you know, right? But as I think you also know, Bill, it's hard enough to build a scaling company. And those are, to me, very different products. Building a company, if you got time, you can add people here, you can constrict revenue there. But if you're building a scaling company, like I remember times at Stratus, I'm literally hiring entire departments of people. Like, I'm hiring the manager, then I'm hiring 5 servicing associates, for instance, for servicing. And no, you guys are all getting hired together because we need all of you, because this is how we're going to build this. And I already have the plan on how to build that department in my head, and knowing we need the people right now. So you just go out and hire. And so you quickly get to 60, 70, 100 people. And scaling at that size sounds amazing, but it's extremely painful. and extremely problematic, right? And being ready to solve those problems and dealing with those problems, to me, is just a whole nother level of business building.
Yeah, I commented on it earlier. Just the ability to shift gears the way that you are having to right now, and how I kind of like compare that to my approach every day. And I have one business to focus on. I have one group of folks. I have, one landscape of customers. I have one strategic plan, one model, one budget. It is an amazing attribute that you have to be able to jump from business to business. And I know that you've soft pedaled the idea that they're all intertwined, but the truth be told, they are distinctly different businesses that have distinctly different requirements of its leader. And you've managed to tap dance from business to business in a way that has been very complimentary. So congrats to that. As we wrap up, Anthony, I always like to talk about, and I don't know if you've ever done this, a SWOT analysis. I live in SWOT, and SWOT for me is S, strengths, W, weakness, O, opportunities, and T, threats. Have you recently done a SWOT analysis on you where you go, okay, hey, my strengths is, I bring people together. My weaknesses is, it's tough for me to focus on one thing. Opportunities are lending space is taken off and, I long, wide runway. And my threats are rates go to 10%. Like, have you done that for yourself?
Always. Yeah. Well, at least once a year for each business. And I don't know if I've ever done one that complements all three businesses into maybe a universal one, but definitely for each business, that's part of the annual transition is doing a SWOT analysis and really evaluating where we're at, what we've got, and where we're going.
So if I just said, Anthony, what's your strength? You only get to pick one. Give me one, and we will assume that there are others, but I'm letting you talk about one.
Connector. My strength is being able to connect two things that may not seem to go together, or two people who don't know each other together.
I think that's great. Weakness. This is where you turn it off so you don't want anyone to hear. I always when I talk about weaknesses, I make sure my wife isn't chiming in.
Trust. I'm too trusting. I really am. And it's funny because it's a benefit in the sense of you understand how do I compartmentalize and run that much is I'm laser focused on that. But to the detriment sometimes of I'll just over trust. And so people bring me stuff. It's like, cool, just handle it here. What do you need me to sign off without really thinking through it because I'm laser focused on what I'm building.
I get that. What about your opportunities?
So many. God, I just get one, huh?
You only get one.
I think this is over generalizing.
V2.
Yeah. Growth, right? I have a blank canvas and I have a paintbrush.
It's awesome. And threats.
Threats are the speed at which each market is optimizing itself.
Very good.
Right? Yeah. And so I will, even with legal services, if it comes down to it, or even Stratus, I'm seeing the speed at which markets are people understand their places in the markets, I think, a lot better than even 10, 20 years ago. And understanding what you're doing today will be disrupted tomorrow. And so how do I think further ahead of that disruption or be a part of it?
That's great. Anthony, it's an absolute pleasure to spend this time with you. You're a pioneer in the space. I think your last name speaks for itself. I'm going to do everything I can to bring peace and harmony to you and your old partners so that you guys could all go live happily ever after. The industry owes you an awful lot. If anyone needs to get a hold of you other than Googling your last name, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, my email is anthony@GeraciLLP.com. Please get a hold of me there. Website is www.GeraciLLP.com, and phone number is there. Give us a call.
All right. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time, and God bless you.
Oh, thank you. This has been an honor. Really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Are you ready to define success on your own terms and hear from those who have done exactly that? Follow us on your social media platforms at CV3 Financial and join the Unconventional crew for inspiring stories and insights. Go be unconventional.